You get pushed in and stop right there because it is not an empty room at all. The floor is already spoken for. Bodies along the wall. Straw pressed flat into narrow lanes. A bucket nobody wants and everybody watches. And one patch of wall that is only a little less wet than the rest, which is why nobody is leaning on it by accident. Somebody looks up before you even say anything and tells you with his face, more than his mouth, not to put your foot where it does not belong. So the first thing is not sitting down. It is learning the map fast enough not to annoy anybody. You pull back from the bucket when the smell hits, clutch your little bundle in against your knees, and wait half a breath for a gap to open. Then you do what everyone else is doing. You look where the bowls are set, where the shoes are tucked, where people leave just enough room for a leg and no more. A man shifts his heel off a strip of straw, and you ask for it like you are asking for a favor at a crowded table, not floor space in a cell. You get a patch, if that is what it can be called. It is near the colder stones, where the damp comes through your clothes if you stay still too long. But it gives you the wall at your back and a place to wedge your bundle under your legs so nobody noses through it in the dark. You sit wrong at first and someone nudges your ankle away from another man's blanket edge it. Then your bowl goes down in the right place, your feet turn the same direction as the others, and the room stops feeling completely impossible. For the moment, that little slice is yours. Or yours as long as nobody stronger wants it and as long as no servant opens the door and tells half the room to shift. So you keep yourself tucked in small, careful not to spread, careful not to complain about the stink from the bucket now that you are close enough to it to regret everything. Then the light starts going, and once your place is sorted, the next awkward thing arrives at once. If you are staying the night, you need to know how food comes in here, and whether there will be any drink left by morning. The hatch opens and everybody looks up at once, not even talking for a second, just counting. A couple of bowls come through, then a heel of bread, then nothing. It is immediately obvious this is not one of those places where food simply arrives because a day has passed. One man gets handed a wrapped parcel with his name shouted badly through the door, and right beside him another man does the little pretending not to watch thing and ends up with nothing at all. So you start asking before pride can get in the way. Who gets fed by the jailer? Who has people outside? Who can send word? Who has to wait until somebody remembers him? The answers come in bits, with the usual suspicion. If you have a coin, that helps. If not, a belt, a clasp, a promise to repay, even the offer of writing a message if you can write better than the others. You find out fast that hunger makes people very exact. Nobody gives away half a loaf because you look miserable. They break off a corner, watch your hand take it, and remember the debt before you have swallowed. After that, the room changes shape. The lock is still there, but what matters more is the sound in the passage. Certain footsteps mean a servant with something in hand. Certain footsteps mean nothing for you. Someone tells you which jailer might be softened, which one wants paying first, and which times of day it is worth standing near the door instead of wasting the effort. Even weak ale starts to matter because it is wet and fills the belly for a minute. Tomorrow's bread, if somebody swears it is coming, is enough to steady a man tonight. But now every eye follows every scrap. If you get a crust, people notice who gave it and why. If word goes out for you, that gets noticed too, because outside help for one man means comparison for everybody else. So while you are still working out how to catch the next meal, you start looking around in a different way. If food comes unevenly, then the dry straw probably does too, and the bit near the light, and the cleaner water, and whatever can be done about the irons. In the dim light, you finally notice the room is not being suffered equally. One man has thicker straw under him. Another has a bit of rag between skin and iron. Somebody near the wall has a candle stub standing in a dish. Not much light, but enough to pick lice out of a seam instead of by feel. So your thinking changes. You stop asking how to bear all of it, and start asking which one thing would let you get through the night without snapping first. Usually it is the ankle. If the iron has been rubbing wet skin raw, that becomes the whole day. So you try a word through the hatch, or you ask the inmate who seems to know which guard can be moved and what he takes. Not a grand bargain, just something mean and practical. A scrap of cloth, a loosened link, a shift in where the chain sits. Or if the irons are hopeless, then maybe a place 2 bodies farther from the bucket. Or a share of cleaner water before the cloudy bottom gets stirred up off. When it works, the change is almost stupidly small. A rag gets tucked under the ring. A chain is lifted and dropped on the other side of the ankle bone. Somebody lets you edge onto drier straw. But then your shoulders come down for the first time. You can stretch one leg. You can sleep without waking every few breaths. If there is a rushlight, you can actually see who is talking. And that is enough to make the muttering around the room feel less like noise and more like company. The trouble is everyone sees that change too. They see the rag, or the better patch of floor, or that your irons are not biting the same way anymore. People start weighing what you paid, who spoke for you, whether you still have anything left, whether you owe someone. A man who ignored you before may suddenly sit closer and talk softly. Another gets short with you for taking room he wanted. So once the place becomes barely livable, that is when you have to learn the real business of it. Who keeps the straw dry, who gets word to the hatch, who can ask for favors twice, and who gets punished for trying. After a few days, people stop jerking at every sound and start sorting the day by little things. The bowls come when they come. Somebody mutters a prayer. Somebody else swears at roughly the same hour. One man keeps glancing up at the slit of light and announces rain like it helps. Another nudges the bucket before it gets too full because once it is too late, everybody pays for it. If no one does these things, the dark just runs together and tempers go bad fast. So you get fussy in ways that would have embarrassed you before. You pull your bedding up from the wet edge with your feet before lying down. You wait for the louder snorer to slump over before trying to sleep. You scratch little marks into stone or wood and then check them again because losing count of days starts to feel worse than being cold. If you get a crust or a rag or anything that can be taken, you stop leaving it where a hand can reach in the night. Even talking changes. Some hours you can joke and get a laugh. Some hours one wrong word costs you half your food. After that the room starts making a kind of sense. You learn the patch by the wall that gets a bit of air, and the patch that only looks dry until you kneel on it. You learn when to shift away from the bucket before the smell thickens, and which man actually knows news from the corridor, and which one just likes hearing himself guessed at titty. You stop arguing with every small nuisance because your body cannot keep flinching all day. That is the closest thing to comfort in there. Just not having to resist every noise, every elbow, every stink at once. But all of it is flimsy. It only works if the same men stay put, the straw stays mostly where it is, no one gets too sick, and the food keeps coming in the same miserable amounts. So people start guarding these tiny habits like property. Then the door opens, everybody looks up at once, and before anyone can shift their knees in, another body is shoved into the space. He comes in already coughing, clothes damp, and nobody even waits to hear his name before they start grabbing their things in closer. A bit of straw gets hooked back with a heel. Bowls disappear under knees. Somebody palms a crust they had tucked near the wall. The man in the better corner spreads his elbows wide like he suddenly needs twice the space. Before the newcomer has even found his balance, there is an argument over whether he goes near the door, near the bucket, or somewhere in the middle where he will be everybody's problem equally. They do make room, but it is the kind of room made by shaving a hand's width off 5 different people. One blanket edge gets pulled, then pulled back. Someone has to sit more upright because there is no way to stretch out now without putting a foot in somebody's ribs. The air changes fast too. Wet wool, road mud, cold breath, that chesty cough every few moments. Yesterday the place had its own rough arrangement. Now every turn of his body bumps another body, and that travels right across the floor until nobody is really asleep, just dropping off and waking angry. At first people watch him for what he might have. News gets you listened to. A coin sewn somewhere gets you tolerated. If he says a wife or brother still sense things, faces soften for a minute, and someone even shifts over without being asked twice. You see that happen. Men who were cursing him a moment ago start asking where he came from, who is still outside, what he heard in the corridor. But they keep their distance as much as the room allows, which is not much. And every answer gets cut by another cough. Once that cough starts sounding deeper, the whole room changes again. No one can move away enough to matter. The same closeness that kept people warm now means breath in your face, shared straw, shared blanket edge, shared bucket, shared hands on the same jug. People start turning their heads to sleep, pulling cloth over their mouths, muttering at him to spit elsewhere, then arguing because there is nowhere else. And if food or clean straw comes in late on top of that, all the little arrangements people depended on stop working at the same time. Then the air turns heavy and stays that way. Straw that was merely dirty is now wet underneath, and once that happens, everything starts sticking to your skin. If you have irons on, the cold makes them feel tighter in the morning, and later, when the room heats up, they saw at the same spots until people start shifting around just to keep metal from grinding the same raw patch. On top of that, the parcel that usually comes for one man does not come, and everybody notices because his bit of extra bread, grease, cloth, even his mood, used to leak into the room. So he starts borrowing by noon. Quietly, at first. A strip of blanket edge for tonight, half a crust, a little water kept back in a cup. Other people do the same thing without admitting it. One asks if anyone can get a letter carried out. Another offers to clean the bucket, rub someone's swollen ankle, pass along corridor talk, anything that can be turned into a favor. You hide how bad you feel because the second people see you slipping, they know you are about to ask for something. That is when every object gets sharp around the edges. The shared blanket is suddenly counted by hand widths. The candle gets trimmed shorter than usual, so everyone is squinting earlier and bumping knees in the dark. The man who looked settled yesterday is now owing bread to one person, water to another, and a promise to a third. People remember exactly who lent what. They do not raise their voices much. It is more muttering, hands staying on things longer, bodies angled to block access. If one favor lands, it can still carry you. A guard is talked into loosening a shackle a notch. A loaf actually gets through. Somebody says he will mention your name outside. That steadies the room for an hour or a day. But now you belong a little to whoever did it for you, and everybody knows it. So when footsteps come down the passage and stop outside the door longer than they should, the talking cuts off at once and no one is sure whether to stand up straighter or make themselves smaller. The keys stop outside and the room changes all at once. Men who were lying flat push themselves up. One hand goes under straw for a crust or a bit of cloth. Somebody whispers a name to himself, so he does not miss it if it is called badly. Another presses a coin into his own palm to have it ready before the door opens, while two others edge away from the coughing man as if sickness might be seen and counted against the whole corner. When your name might be next, you stop thinking about the room as a room. It turns into pieces. Bowl, rag, shoe if you still have both. Whatever food can be tucked inside the wrap. If you cannot carry it, you decide fast who gets it. And that is awkward too, because now someone is watching to see whether you trust him, and someone else is offended before you have even stood up. All the little arrangements that took days to settle suddenly look flimsy, like they were only on loan. Then the door cracks and every face tries to read the guard before he speaks. If he is bored, angry, in a hurry, half drunk, if there is another man behind him with a list, people notice all of it. A name can mean hearing, release, another fee, another room, irons put back on tighter, or just being dragged out to be counted and shoved back again. So when they call, there is that one quick lift in the chest, because at least something is happening, and then you limp forward with your bundle, trying not to leave behind the one thing you will want in an hour. Sometimes even the hope is only the movement. You get out of that corner, out of that smell, past one door and toward another, and for a few steps that feels like improvement. Then you see a different chamber, or a different jailer already holding out his hand, or no one there who knows what was promised. By then your old place is gone, your things are what you can grip, and before the first door has stopped swinging you are already judging another floor, another bucket, another patch of wall, and who will make you pay to sit near it?